I'm going to say good afternoon. Do I have the time zone correct on that end?
Noon. Yep. Pacific
Yeah.
time.
Okay,
Yep.
there you go. Well, thank you for taking the time. Is the day going well aside from talking to fake news media today?
It's going great. Yeah. Just busy, busy time. The record's coming out and
Yes.
I got a long to-do list and I'm slugging away.
Well, we've gotten a taste of the couple of the songs from the album before it's come out, but how long has Fade Away Blue been done for?
Oh, geez, quite a while. I wrapped it up sometime last year. I want to say maybe even late summer, early fall-ish. It took a while to kind of sort out, what to do with the record.
Hmm.
Um, so kind of shopped around for a while and eventually landed on a distribution deal with Missing Piece Records.
Hmm.
Yeah, so kind of a slow process from the time we finished it to getting it out. And then
So,
also the other thing that sort of slowed it down is once we had a schedule for this year, I've been dealing with chronic fatigue issues for the last 10 years. And so I actually postponed the release of the singles and the album a couple times this year, actually three times, just
wow.
to kind of cope with the fact that my energy was kind of ebbing and flowing. So yeah,
Well,
that
did
that
it, to rudely interrupt you, did it almost become a series of EPs instead of a full length?
no, it's a 10 song album. But we did release a single Fading Fast back in 2023, and then
Right.
Lonely Mama I released as a single in 2024. And then sort of leading up to the album release this year, we've released You Called Me Kid and Song for Barbara Ann. So a
Well,
little bit of a, kind of a odd kind of release schedule. I mean, normally people will do a few singles like right before it, but I had started working on the record with my co-producer Paul Bryan
mhm.
quite some time ago, and just was anxious to get something out because I hadn't released any music in a really long time. So I just went ahead and put Fading Fast out back in 2023, and then my friend Mike McCready from Pearl Jam has a little boutique label called Hockey Toctor Records.
Mhm.
And he had heard my song Skeleton Crew. I put out an acoustic version of that back in 2020 to raise money for a local charity when COVID hit. And he heard that and really dug it and said, "Hey, let's put it on a 7 inch." And eventually I kind of came up with the other song to put on the other side, and that was Lonely Mama. So we released that as a 7 inch vinyl single on his label back last year.
I do have a question about Mike for later, but
Yeah.
back to the Pete Droge show right here.
Hmm.
So for you, obviously dealing with health stuff, you feel like it's this long absence. And then us as fans, your music just kept popping up on soundtracks and sync placements and all that. And the first way I found out about you in the first place, because of my age, was the Beautiful Girls
Hmm.
soundtrack. There was that MTV special where they just kept saying, and this new soundtrack featuring Pete Droge and all that.
Yeah,
In a weird way, it seems like sync placements and soundtracks were kind of a saving grace for you between label deals.
totally. Yeah, it's been an amazing, amazing thing for me over the years. It started with the first album. If You Don't Love Me was a single that was kind of getting a bit of traction at radio and then was included in Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah.
And that was huge. And not only was it in the movie, these are all things I didn't really understand how important they were at the time, but it's in the movie. That's great, fantastic. Then it's going to be on the soundtrack album, which there's only so much room on the albums. It's not a given if your song's in the movie that it'll be on the album. And
Right.
then it was that, and then it was the lead single from the album, and we had the video for it and everything. So that was amazing. And then right after that, the Beautiful Girls thing came, and that was great timing because it was in between my first record and my second album. So it was
Hmm.
a nice little bridge between the albums. And then over the years, yeah, just have had a bunch of, film and TV placements, highlights being like, a couple on Grey's Anatomy, a
Yeah.
song called the title track for Under the Waves. There was a great timing on a song called Two of the Lucky Ones from the Georgian Summers Blend project. Literally on the day that the album came out, it was a 5 song EP. On the very day it was released, we got the word that Two of the Lucky Ones would be included in the movie Zombieland, which became a monster hit. And we've definitely had a lot of fans kind of discover the music through that, and that sync placement paid for the entire record, like in the first day that it was released, and so that was beautiful. And yeah, just like a nice run of that stuff over the years. And
Yeah.
I've also worked as a composer in film and TV.
Yes. Yes, you
Um,
have.
so always just loved music's role in films, like was a huge fan of, like The Graduate and Harold and Maude, and some of those classic kind of song-based scores were really impactful on me when I was young. So just really, feel super blessed and lucky that we've had a decent run in that whole world.
When it comes to some of those placements, the Grey's Anatomy, I remember Alex Pitzavas was the
Mhm.
supervisor choosing a lot of that stuff. And having worked in artist management, I found that there was two trains of thought. One was the artist or label or the manager who'd regularly be pitching all the songs to the music supervisors and going, let's set up showcases. Here's the samplers. Here's the EPK. And then, yeah, the other people who just were lucky their good music found the ears of people who liked good music. In your case, was it the latter, where just the music happened to find the desk of Alex and similar supervisors?
I was proactive about it. After three solo records on major labels, I could kind of see like, wow, this film and TV thing is great.
Yeah.
So when I started to release records independently, I did put a lot of eggs in the film and TV sync basket, and was proactive about it. And this was at a time, this would be the early 2000s. So this, like the record Sky Watching, which came out in 2003.
Hmm.
This is when the majority of the music business was still focused on radio and MTV. Like that's what everybody was going for still in those days. It was transitioning, but that was still the emphasis for all the big labels and the big artists. So there wasn't as much competition in the sync world as there is now. So I was able to, nurture the relationships that I developed early on. So
Hmm.
anytime somebody would just, so it was a combination. I would get just random emails, hey, we want to use your song in such and such. And then when that would happen, I would just make a point of staying in touch with those people and sending them music when it was ready. I was never like overly persistent about that stuff. Like I didn't, follow up multiple times and, hopefully, wasn't a pain in the butt with these people. But I did make an effort over the years and still do just to kind of send the music out and let those music supervisors and, sometimes it's music editors or directors that I've worked with. Just, let them hear the music and let them know it's out there.
So the right amount of hustle, the not desperate amount, but the right amount that they know that you still exist. Like you found the
Hopefully, yeah.
virtuous medium.
Hopefully, yeah. Yeah. I was always very conscious of just not being annoying. That was my whole thing. It's like, I want to share the music. I know their job is to find music. So that's a nice thing for me to do to go, here's some music, but not to be, a pest and annoyingly persistent. That was always kind of my balance.
Got it. So when I listen to the music of Fade Away Blue, I continue to hear the great roots influence, singer-songwriter influence, countrified in a good way, folk, but it still has the rock edge to the whole thing. But I read that early on, and this is the McCready tie-in, early on you were a Kiss fan.
Oh,
Were
yeah.
there earlier works of yours that sounded more in the Kiss or Van Halen direction?
Well, my very first band was actually a punk rock band. It was called March of Crimes. And March of Crimes earned its place as a footnote in rock history because Ben Shepherd from Soundgarden was in the band. He and I overlapped for a minute. So I was in the first incarnation of the band, and then Ben joined. We had two guitars for just a minute, and then I quit because, fast bar chord rock was just not my vibe. And then for just a minute, Stone Gossard from Pearl Jam uh, kind of joined the band. I think, I saw an interview with Stone talking about it, and he said, well, I came to a couple rehearsals, and then the band was kind of like, yeah, no. So, I think Wikipedia says he was technically a member of the band. But anyway, so that group also featured New York Times bestselling author Jonathan Evison. He was the singer under the name Monkey Seeker. So that,
Monkeys.
yeah, so that was my first band. That was, super distorted, fast bar chord rock. I kind of left that band because I had recently discovered the blues. I was like a huge Stones fan.
Hmm.
Um, I was really into a lot of the classic rock at that time. So my early life in grade school, big Kiss fan for like, second grade to about fifth grade. I was just all about Kiss, a little bit of Bachman Turner Overdrive thrown in there for good measure. But it was the summer of fifth grade. My parents had a party and they were listening to Bridge Over Troubled Water, Simon
Hmm.
and Garfunkel. And I heard the song Cecilia down the hall while all the adults were partying. And the next day I was like, oh yeah, I like that song. And I went and found the Simon and Garfunkel record. And I don't think I ever listened to another Kiss record again. I was just like fully into that world. And then shortly after that, dove into my dad's Dylan records. I was a huge AC/DC fan, like
Hmm.
junior high, and a lot of the hard rock, like Black Sabbath and Aerosmith. And I was really deep into that. High school, kind of discovered some of the punk rock stuff and some of the roots of punk rock, like the early Alice Cooper records and
Sure.
Stooges and all of that stuff. Um, but that didn't really find its way, as much as I love that music, didn't find its way into my stuff as much. I was more kind of leaning towards the singer-songwriter route. I had a band in the early Seattle days in the early 90s called Ramadillo, which was alt country before the term existed. Like we used to do
Right.
kind of revved up.
Before Whiskey Town and all that.
Yeah, yeah. We
Yeah.
were drunken versions of George Jones and Willie Nelson songs, and I wrote a lot of originals for that were squarely in the kind of alt country mode. Um, and a couple of the records that I made with Brendan O'Brien,
Hmm.
Find a Door and Spacey and Shaken. Those have some cranked guitars and a bit more on the rock side, but ultimately my tempo and my vibe is just mellower than all that.
So to clarify, there wasn't a period where you had just too many notes in your songs and too many chord changes?
No, never too many chord changes for sure. I should mention, yeah, my band after March of Crimes, uh, we were a garage rock band, quite literally, in that we practiced in our singer's garage. And
Hmm.
we covered Love Gun in our
Oh,
set. And the one gig that we ever played was opening for the legendary Seattle punk rock band, The Accused,
yeah.
and another legendary band, Mother Love Bone. Of course,
Oh,
we all know Mother Love Bone, and so that was our very first gig, and we opened that set with Love Gun, and then at the end of the show, somebody was kind of heckling us from the audience, saying, "Play Love Gun again, play Love Gun again," and I was adamantly opposed to it. I was like, "We can't open and close with the same song," but there was debate among the band. Next thing I know, the drummer was da 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 da, and we're in. And years later, I found out through my friendship with Regan Hagar, the drummer from Malfunction, and who went on to play with Brad and Satchel, and is now partners in Loose Groove Records with Stone Gossard. It was actually Regan Hagar who was yelling out for that because he had showed up late and had heard that we had played Love Gun and really wanted to hear it again. So yeah, we did actually. I did have some time, but in that band, I was just the guitar player. That was before I started singing. So there was a little bit of that Kiss influence in the early days.
so you could play the Love Gun solo back in the day? Oh,
I
you
would,
were on
I'm,
rhythm?
I'm sure, well, it was a one guitar band. I'm sure I tried. No, I was not in a mode of, I was not like a note for note, learn it off the record guy. I'm sure if I could hear a recording of that, it would be blackmail material.
It happens to the best of us.
Yeah.
Two questions, and then I'll let you go. And the
Okay.
first one, I'm sure you've been asked this before, but I didn't see the easy answer. The Thorns ended very abruptly, understandably, but was there almost a second record?
Nope, there was never any talk of a second record. I think, that was the better part of 2 years of our lives.
Yeah.
Originally, it was kind of pitched to us like, oh, this is going to be kind of a low key, side project. We're not going to have a huge recording budget, kind of, don't bother making a video and doing all that stuff. It'll be just kind of mellow. And then it just bloomed and blossomed into so much more as our demo tapes and then our record kind of made their way up the food chain at Columbia Records. It just more and more people got excited about it and it became more of a priority. I think it swallowed up, more of our lives than Matthew, Sean, and I had it, originally intended. And so by the time it was done, we felt like we had kind of made our statement and done our thing,
Hmm.
and we were all ready to kind of get back to our solo careers. I'd love for it to get going again. I think it would be amazing if that were to happen. There was a little bit of talk about maybe doing a show at a festival, kind of getting us together for a festival. But we'll see how Matthew's
Yeah.
recovery goes.
Fingers crossed on that.
Yeah,
And at
yeah.
least we have new music from you, the artist. And the last question I have is, given the health stuff that you've overcome in recent years, are we going to see you do traditional touring in support of this record? Or is it just do the major cities, do your Seattle, LA, New York, and then occasional festivals?
Right now, what we're doing is we're doing kind of bite-sized pieces. So we've got some dates in September in the Northeast, just 5 dates.
Hmm.
around the Northeast. We're hitting Cambridge, New York, Philly, Northampton, and Vienna, Virginia.
Hmm.
We're putting together a few dates in the Northwest in October. I'm not sure what will be next after that, but I'm still kind of squarely in the chronic fatigue zone. So I don't see myself ever touring like we used to, where I mean, literally on the first album, we left home in May and we
Hmm.
came home in December. And there was like
Yeah.
5 days off in the middle where we didn't even come home. We just like went out to Joshua Tree and chilled out for 5 days. So pretty much 6 months solid on the road with like five days off in the middle. And even after that, in the years after that, it'd be common to go out for 6 weeks at a stretch, and that's not going to happen anymore. I'm not up for that. So we're just kind of looking at doing these little short stints, and we'll figure out. I'd like to get back overseas. I'd love to go back to Europe. I'd love to get down to Australia again. So the plan is just to kind of stay out there consistently, and I'm hoping to get everywhere once. I'd love to get back to the Midwest and hit the Southeast and Southwest. So we'll see how it goes. We're kind of taking it one thing at a time right now.
Got it. Hurry up and wait. That sounds like the common answer
Yeah,
right there.
where are
But
you located?
New York, where I believe you're playing Joe's Pub in a couple of weeks. So
Yeah,
looking forward to that. But the key is you're back.
yeah,
The wife is still making great music. You're scoring stuff. The syncs pop up like that Thorns placement out of nowhere
yeah,
not too long ago. So looking
yeah.
forward to what's to come and keep being awesome, Pete.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Paltrocast.